Welcome to Le Weekend, your essential roundup of French news on culture, business, the economy, and current affairs. We bring you a convenient way to catch up on the stories from the past week in France, plus an additional focus feature blending reportage and cultural context. These are the headlines for Monday, March 9th. France launched a nationwide petrol station inspection program as fuel prices jump. A blitz of petrol station inspections is set to be carried out this week after a sharp rise in fuel prices sparked fears that retailers could exploit tensions in the Middle East, as reported by RFI. France is going to the polls on the 15th and 22nd of March to elect 34,875 mayors in a vote seen as a key test ahead of next year's presidential election. The two-round ballot will measure the strength of the far-right National Rally, RN, and showcase what types of alliances could emerge in a fragmented landscape, as reported by RFI. The French government unveiled a new plan to address the gender wage gap in line with the European Union directive. To address pay inequality between women and men, the European Union adopted a directive on pay transparency in May 2023. EU member states have until June 7th to implement the measure in their national laws, but France will not meet this deadline, as reported by Le Monde. The headlines on Tuesday, March 10th. President Emmanuel Macron spoke out in support of civil nuclear power at a summit held in Paris, following which 27 countries called for an acceleration of both public and private investment to triple global nuclear capacity by 2050, a goal adopted at COP28, as reported by France 24. France is scaling up anti-drone measures to industrial level as the threat rises. As the government prepares to change the law to strengthen protection to sensitive sites, the industry is gearing up for a boom in the anti-drone market, as reported by Le Monde. France retained its position as the second largest arms exporter. Its international sales increased by 21% between 2021 and 2025 compared to the previous period, 2016 to 2020, according to the benchmark annual report published by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. This is more than the increase in global exports, which was 9.2% comparing to the previous period, reflecting a world that is rapidly rearming, as reported by Le Figaro. These are the headlines on Wednesday, March 11th. Already 20,000 French citizens have returned from the Middle East since the start of the Iran conflict. The government said that of approximately 400,000 French citizens who were living or traveling in countries in the Middle East at the moment of the outbreak of the war between the United States and Israel and Iran, nearly 20,000 have returned home, as reported by Le Monde. French inflation is set to remain low despite the Iran war. Bank of France Governor François Villeroy de Galhau said inflation is expected to remain low even though the war in Iran may lead to slightly higher prices and lower growth globally, as reported by Reuters. A major raid took place in Marseille against DZ Mafia. 42 people were arrested, including the 3 alleged leaders of the drug trafficking group suspected of controlling the northern neighborhoods of Marseille, as reported by France Info. Livret A, a popular French tax-free savings account capped at €22,950, will fund 60% of the €72.8 billion EPR2 nuclear reactor program via a state loan. Announced by President Macron, it supports 6 new reactors with EDF's decision by late 2026 and operations by 2038, as reported by Le Monde. The headlines on Thursday, March 12th. France will triple its aid to Lebanon. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot said France will provide 60 tons of humanitarian aid, with the first convoy set to arrive on Thursday, as reported by TF1. Several brands of cow and goat cheese have been subject to massive recall campaigns since Monday due to suspected presence of listeria and the risks they could pose to human health, as reported by Le Figaro. The headlines on Friday, March 13th. A French soldier was killed in Iraq as a pro-Iran group vowed to hit France's interests. President Emmanuel Macron confirmed the casualty as well as several wounded in an attack in Iraq's autonomous Kurdistan, describing the attack as unacceptable. It is France's first military death in the Middle East war, as reported by RFI. President Emmanuel Macron welcomed Ukraine President Zelensky in Paris and vowed to keep up pressure on Russia to end its 4-year invasion of Ukraine after Washington partially rolled back sanctions against Moscow to cool oil prices sent soaring by the Middle East war, as reported by France 24. France is said to be pressing on with Hormuz plans, but is not holding secret Iran talks, according to sources. 2 unnamed French officials said France aims to put together a coalition to secure the strait once the security situation stabilizes, after a report had suggested Paris was negotiating safe passage for its ships, as reported by Reuters. You are listening to Le Weekend. And now that you're all caught up with the headlines from the past week, it's time for our bonus story. Today we look at French cheese and why it made the news this week. Today we take a deep dive to the soul of French gastronomy. This week the headlines have been occupied by reports of a large cheese recall, a situation that serves as a stark reminder of just how seriously France takes the safety and integrity of its dairy products. While the news gave temporary pause to some, especially authorities and producers in France, it is a regular system of oversight designed to protect a heritage that stretches back thousands of years. French health authorities often issue specific recommendations for fragile populations, such as young children under 5, pregnant women, and the immunocompromised, to avoid raw milk and raw milk cheeses, to ensure that the consumption of cheese remains a safe experience for everyone. This dedication to quality speaks of the deep cultural significance of this industry. The recall makes national news because cheese in France is not a casual snack. An astounding 96% of French people eat cheese, and nearly half of the entire population, 47%, eats it every single day. According to figures published by Statista, on average, a person in France will polish off more than 27 kilograms, that's 59 pounds, of cheese every year. With over 400 varieties of cheese available, you could stay in France for over a year and taste a different variety every single day without ever repeating yourself. As master cheesemaker Pierre André once said, cheese is a delicate, living material that cradles the identity and traditions of the earth and its inhabitants. This identity is protected by a prestigious label you have probably seen, AOP, or Appellation d'origine protégée. When you see that red and yellow logo, it is a guarantee that every single step of the process, from the production of the milk to the final aging or affinage, took place within a specific geographical area using recognized traditional know-how. France is actually the European champion of these protected dairy products, boasting 51 AOP dairy items, 46 of which are cheeses. These numbers can change over time as new AOPs are recognized, and the labels aren't just for show. They support over 13,000 milk producers and billions of euros in turnover. In 2023, cheese sales generated over 10.2 billion euros, that is $11.7 billion according to Statista, ensuring that rural communities and mountainous regions like the Jura or the Alps remain economically vibrant. The history of French cheese crosses paths in many ways with the history of France itself, with legendary figures like Charlemagne or Napoleon. It is a story that begins in the Neolithic era, around 10,000 BC, when the dawn of farming first brought goats and eventually cattle into human settlements. By 3000 BC, during the Bronze Age, humans were already using strainers to drain curd and churns to make butter. We see the fingerprints of early cheesemaking throughout antiquity, from the cheese urns buried by pharaohs for the afterlife to Homer's Odyssey, where the Cyclops Polyphemus is described straining curd in woven baskets. But the first truly detailed records of the stages of cheesemaking were written down by the Roman agronomist Columella in 60 AD. The basic principles he described, clotting, salting, and drying, are remarkably similar to the methods still used today. After the fall of the Roman Empire, much of the world's cheesemaking knowledge could have been lost if not for the monasteries. During the Middle Ages, monks became the primary custodians of these ancient recipes, developing and refining iconic cheeses that we still love today, such as Maroilles, Munster, and Pont-l'Évêque. By the 13th century, production moved beyond the monastery walls onto the French farms. This period saw the rise of a unique French tradition, cheesemaking as a craft dominated by women. Mothers passed their secrets and techniques down to their daughters, improving them over generations. It was also during this time, in 1267, that the first cooperatives were founded by women looking for a steady source of income from their dairy production. The history of cheese is also royal. In 1393, King Charles VI granted a monopoly for the maturation of Roquefort cheese to the inhabitants of the village of Roquefort, a privilege that successive kings continued to renew. This royal decree actually formed the historical basis for the modern AOP label concept. Later, in 1791, a farmer named Marie Harel from Normandy would cement her place in history by inventing or developing Camembert, which eventually became so popular that by 1860 an engineer named Riedel had to invent the iconic wooden box just to transport it without it getting crushed. Moving on to the industrial age, science begins to play a larger role. In 1892, Louis Pasteur, followed by biologist and friend Émile Duclos, developed milk pasteurization, and by the 1930s, industrial production of cheese with pasteurized milk was in full swing. This era also brought the invention of refrigerated trucks and the first televised advertisements for cheese, most famously for Boursin in 1968. Yet, despite this technology, the heart of French cheese remains in its diversity, which we are categorizing here roughly into 7 families. First, we have the soft cheeses like the world-famous Brie and Camembert. Brie, often called the king of cheeses, comes from the towns northeast of Paris, like Mons and Melun, and pairs beautifully with champagne. Then there are semi-soft varieties, such as the orangey yellow Pont d'Évêque from Normandy or the citrusy Morbier from eastern France. If you prefer something more intense, the hard cheeses like Comté from the Jura Mountains offer fruity, smoky, and salty notes. There are also semi-hard cheeses like Tome de Savoie, which may look ordinary on the outside but hide a wealth of flavor within. Let's not forget the blue cheeses, the stars of which are traditionally aged in caves to encourage the growth of mold. Roquefort, the sharp and tangy giant, is made from sheep's milk in the Occitanie region and remains a favorite. For those who enjoy earthy flavors, the goat cheeses, or chèvre, like Crottin de Chavignol from the Loire Valley, are a standout, pairing perfectly with a glass of Sancerre. And finally, there are fresh, unripened cheeses like Fromage Frais, which are creamy and white, ideal for both savory appetizers or sweet desserts. The season also matters. Spring is considered the peak time for many AOP cheeses because the animals are grazing on new grass and flowery pastures, resulting in a milk that is particularly subtle. This is when short-aged cheeses like Camembert and Brie and many goat cheeses are at their best. If you're looking to create your own cheese board, the French have a specific etiquette for that as well. In a French gastronomic meal, cheese is typically served after the main course and before dessert. It's usually composed of an assortment of textures and flavors, ensuring the cheese is removed from the fridge 30 minutes before serving to let the flavors bloom. Always cheeses are arranged from the mildest to the strongest, and if possible using separate knives for each to avoid mixing the flavors. And of course, you can always accompany a French cheese board with a crusty French baguette. Today, the French dairy sector continues to evolve. It's using molecular biology and advanced analytical methods to ensure quality while maintaining the ancient soul of the craft. French regulations tightly define dairy products and protect the use of terms such as fromage to ensure that you're eating a true product of dairy fermentation and straining. Whether it is a mountain cheese from Savoie or a coastal variety from Normandy, each cheese is a testament to the terroir, the unique combination of soil, climate, and tradition that makes cheese a global treasure. So the next time you enjoy a slice of comté or a bit of creamy camembert, remember that you are participating in a tradition that has been thousands of years in the making. Thank you for listening to Le Weekend, your one-stop destination for the main headlines in France. Catch our weekly roundup every weekend wherever you get your podcasts. Stay informed.